Okay, so today I'm talking to the lovely Kim Cousins, who is a qualified sales and leadership business coach and a LinkedIn specialist. And I've known Kim for quite a long time now, and we've never had the opportunity to be able to have a chat like this. So I'm really looking forward to speaking with you today, Kim, and seeing how you can empower others and talk about your new book as well.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. It's great to be here. And you're right. We've known each other for a while, and we're often at events and different gatherings together, and we haven't actually sat down and really had a big chin wag. So this is cool.
Yes, yeah. So I'd love you to tell the listeners a bit about yourself, because I know you've had a long career in leadership around Australia and things like that. So what can you share with them?
Yeah, sure. I guess for me, my career's been all about selling. So as a salesperson myself, I cut my teeth with Telstra in the corporate sales arena, and that was a really great time of development. And I was on a leadership program whilst I was at Telstra, so I really elevated my skills, and particularly at a time when women were really sought after as having a sort of a nurturing nature. So from a sales perspective, I was typically one of those that I was given big accounts to manage and to nurture and look after, and all those sorts of really natural things, which were certainly natural to me. But there's always underlying is always that you do have to sell something, and you do need to, make your numbers and, tick all the boxes and all that sort of thing. But I guess for me, naturally, selling was, so long as it was something that the client needed to help them improve their business, for example, it was just a natural thing to educate them and share that with them. So I guess that's sort of where I started, and where, I sort of formed my philosophies of how I'd approach business and selling and leadership. And then as I progressed my career, I moved more into a management role, managing teams of salespeople. And same sort of thing is that we had sales methodologies and training that we went through, but for each person, for them to really be successful, they needed to find a way to sell that was natural and authentic to them specifically. Yes. So I was able to coach them and to really encourage them to trust themselves and use their strengths, and not worry about, just because the sales process says you have to do this, this, and this, that yes, you've got to tick boxes and do all of that, but you can just be natural and authentic and connect with your customer. So for the past 10 years, I've been providing sales training, sales coaching, and sales mentoring to both sales leaders and salespeople and business owners. Both, I was working in corporate, but for the last 5 years, I've been doing that for myself. And I find I'm doing the same stuff from the outside in, as opposed to doing it from the inside out. So I guess that's the same foundation. So the foundation's been the same for me throughout.
Yeah, and it's so important, like what you said, when you're selling, when you've got a product that someone else needs to evolve their business, it's not really selling, it's just you're offering the service and they want it. So, it becomes much easier, a much more authentic process than having to try and ram something down someone's throat.
Yeah, and I often start with, what is the concept of selling? And, people have such a negative connotation, or they have a bias against selling. It's really because they don't want to be like those salespeople that we've probably all experienced, which is they've tried to sell us something we really didn't need. And that's exactly how you shouldn't be. So unfortunately, there are still sellers out there who do that, and we could stereotype them into being used car salespeople or what have you. But to be a professional salesperson, particularly business to business, and not even that, but it can be professional selling to individuals as well. It is it's educating, it's sharing insights, it's helping people understand that they don't know what they don't know. So if you can share something that's going to be of benefit, then why wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's right, because no one likes being sold to.
No, but we like to buy.
Yes.
when we want it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And like, through your experience, do you find that the salespeople are better if they're extroverts and like quite loud and bubbly, or have you seen a pattern evolving where the introverts just don't get as many sales as the loud people?
Yeah, no, I think that's a bit of a myth. No, not necessarily. Certainly back in the day, and I'll say last century because technically it was. The sales manager would always want to hire typically male, extrovert, perhaps married with children and a mortgage because they're hungry for sales. And unfortunately, sometimes that then equated to them going out and being a bit too aggressive and too ruthless in their selling. And the thing is, being an extrovert is great because they supposedly have the gift of the gab and they like to talk on the phone and present to people. It's not necessarily the case, but let's just say that most people think that. And then most people think that introverts are really quiet, but that's not the case either. Introverts, once you talk to them about something that they know a lot about, they could be more expressive than an extrovert. But typically, you've got to think about, okay, the people you're selling to, are they extroverts or introverts? Well, you don't really know. So if an extrovert who's talking the whole time, and they're selling to someone who is an introvert who's saying, why don't you just shut up? I've had enough of listening to you. It's not about you. It's meant to be about me and my business. Then there can be a disconnect. And it can be the opposite. You can have an introvert who sits there very quietly, and the client talks too much, but the introvert can listen. But the introvert can often ask a really good question, but they do listen for the answers.
Yes.
And then you could, but it goes further than that. There are, are extroverts good at talking and introverts better at writing? If they can balance out both in their sales approach, then they can appeal to a whole range of clients either way. I think it's self-awareness where that really comes from. If an extrovert realizes that they're talking too much, they will stop, but they just sometimes need to be reminded. And an introvert, sometimes they don't say much, and you really want to know what they're thinking. They say that if you want to know what an introvert's thinking, you have to ask them. If you want to know what an extrovert is thinking, you just have to listen because they're going to tell you anyway.
Yes.
So a long answer to your question, it's not one thing or another. It could be a whole range of other attributes of the person that could deem them good at sales.
Yeah, I think the key thing is that if the person is passionate about what they're selling and they really believe in that product, then it becomes so much easier. And it doesn't matter if they're an introvert or an extrovert, the person who wants to buy the product will, feel their passion for it too. Yeah,
it's self-belief, and it's belief in the product is going to deliver what it is that they're proposing that the outcomes are going to be from that product or service.
Yeah, fantastic. And when you're coaching like salespeople, where do you start with them? Like, is there a particular way that you teach groups of people how to sell?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I like to get down to the person, and that could be as simple as determining whether they are introvert or extrovert, and whether they like to phone customers or they prefer to email customers. And often either or, they're often hiding behind an email or a messenger or Facebook or LinkedIn posts or whatever, and they forget that they actually need to talk to the customer and connect with them and get to know them. And that's really probably the first place I start, regardless of the personality type. I look at the process of two things probably. One is, when was the last time you phoned your customer? And the answer is, oh, I don't really, I just email them. Okay, that's a good place to start. And secondly, how often do you follow up? If it's a potential new customer and you've sent them a quote, for example, or a proposal, how often do you follow up, or how many times do they get a chance to engage with you? And if the answer is, I hide behind email or I don't follow up at all, then there's a problem with process to begin with.
Yeah.
And I don't mean a step-by-step process. The process is simply, if you're don't follow up, if you don't follow up your quote, for example, the client doesn't even think that you want their business. You have to actually ask and say, look, I've sent you the quote. What do you think? Is that something we can move ahead with? And the customer can say yes or no. And if they say no, it could be because they simply need more information. But if you never get that chance to connect and ask those questions, then they could be speaking to 3 other different people who are engaged. So for me, it's having the conversation. You don't know unless you actually discuss.
Yeah, I know for the women who I speak to that are in small business, doing the follow-up calls is something that the majority of them hate doing. Like, they just don't want to follow up. They think that they're going to be rejected, or, all of these feelings come up, and they just, think that person doesn't want to work with them because otherwise they'd phone them back, but it's so important to do that follow-up call.
Look, I went through that exercise even for myself just recently, where I had been having some fantastic conversations, thought that, with people, the client would move ahead with me, sent proposal. I usually send a video proposal as well, or at least have a voice overlay taking them through what I'm sending them. And clunk, or I get an email back, say, yeah, great, I'll think about it type of approach. But then you phone up and you go back and they say, look, it is great. It's not a no. It's not now. My father's sick. I now have to look after my father. I don't have time to go onto this program. And you ask the question, when would you like me to follow up? Great. Yeah, ring me back in January. No problem at all. So then that next follow-up call isn't so daunting because you've already been given permission.
Yes.
And I think that's probably a little bit, I'm just thinking about your ladies. There's a couple of little skills that you can that you can pop in there. And that is, when you do send the proposal, you've had the initial discussion, ask the client, how and when would you like me to follow up with you? Yeah. And you'd be surprised that often the client says, oh, please phone me, or please email me. I'm so busy and I'm crazy and things get lost and the kids are home from school or whatever. Yeah. They say, yes, keep at me. And they give you that permission to do the follow-up. And the other thing is the technique of what do you say when you follow up? And I think a lot of people just don't realize what they can say. And if you ring up and say, hey, I'm following up on my quote, of course the customer's sort of going to go, oh. But if you say, hey, look, do you have any questions? And I've had some other thoughts, and you re-educate as part of the process, then it's not a sales follow-up call.
Yes.
I think if you
reframe, connection.
It's a connection. It's not, if you think, I've got to do my sales follow-up calls, of course it's going to be, oh God. But if you think, I'm reconnecting.
Yeah. It just makes such a huge difference, doesn't it? The energy between the whole phone call or however you're interacting with that person just changes.
It does.
Doesn't become yucky anymore, or either party feeling that they don't want to be having the conversation. It becomes much more natural.
Yeah, and I think you've got to remember it's human, and you can. I think asking permission and earning the right to follow up and keep in contact and stay on the database and continue to send them, link to watch your podcast, or tagging them in a post on LinkedIn about something that you think they would find useful, all that sort of stuff that's all follow up.
Yes.
It's all a big cloud of follow up, because on average it takes, statistics are showing that on average it takes around 10 to 12 engagements with a customer before they say yes.
Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it?
And I did a poll on on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, and I said, in your process, how many follow-up or touch points, engagements do you have with your potential customer before you give up? And I said 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, whatever it was. And more than 50% of people said, I give up after 2. Yeah. I'm like, yep, that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, because that's a huge loss if you're meant to be doing it another 10 times on top of that.
And it's not 10 phone calls, as I said. The touch points could be a bunch of different things.
Yes. Yeah. So what made you write your book, Selling with Heart?
Probably for all those reasons I've just talked about. And I think it really started for me when that philosophy of, there's sales training and there's a certain way that you're supposedly meant to be. And that's a bit old school. It's really 21st century is the human to human connection. It is using your heart because you do care about the outcomes that your clients get from your product or service.
Yes.
And what constitutes being able to sell with your heart or from your heart? And that is getting good on the phone, thinking about your things from the buyer's perspective. And you might have a particular product that you think is valuable and it does X, Y, and Z. But does that customer think it does X, Y, and Z? Maybe that customer thinks it does other things. And that customer thinks that your same product has different value for them. And so being able to be very relevant to your buyer and seeing your product and your engagement through their eyes is a very big difference. Because I keep coming back to that one size does not fit all. One product has different values for different people. It's like buying a car. Some people buy a car because it's reliable. Some people might buy it because it's efficient with petrol, or it's electric, or it's got heated seats, or it's got a sunroof and all these things. It could be the same car, but different buyers buy it for different reasons.
Yes. Yeah, and it's so important, isn't it, to understand that part of the selling process.
Yeah, and a lot of people will often say, "Oh, if you just give me a sales script, I'll know what to do." And I said, "Yeah, sales scripts are very important. You have to know your pitch and your unique selling proposition. You have to know all these sorts of things. But if you approach it as a script, then the client will know that they're just one of many. They don't feel like you're really engaging with them."
Yes. And the issues with having a script as well is that if you're concentrating on what your next question is going to be, you're not actually listening to what they're telling you. So there's, it's not a flowing conversation. It's just you trying to sell to them.
Thanks for adding that in. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah. So, and then it feels yucky again because they don't feel like you've heard them, and then they don't want to buy because you're not the right person for them. So yeah, it's good to have that there, especially when you're first starting out in sales. But yeah, you want to be going more with your heart.
And look, I mean, it comes down to the most basic of retail sales, and we've all walked into a clothing shop, and one of a few things happen. You're either completely ignored, or someone's hovering over you, or someone's so busy cleaning they don't even, all those sorts of things. And I was actually thinking about a particular store in Chermside in North Brisbane. And I was just thinking to myself, whenever I'm in Chermside, I always go into this particular shop. I won't name it because that's not fair. Well, it is fair because they're very good. And, I'm just looking. Yeah, are you looking for anything particular? No, I always like to browse when I'm here. Next thing you know, I'm in there and she's got 5 different outfits and shoes and belts and headpieces and the whole outfit. And she's really helping me and asking me, well, do you like sleeves? Do you like not sleeves? What sort of work do you do? Do you go to events? And all these questions. Next thing you know, you're buying an outfit for something that you didn't even know you needed an outfit for. But then again, because it's been fitted properly and shown how to put the belt on and all these things, you've got that extra value. Next thing you know, it becomes your favorite outfit because it has been at the absolutely right thing for you to buy at that time.
Yeah.
And offline, I'll tell you which one, because I tell you what, I always walk out of there with something I didn't really think I needed, but, is one of my favorite dresses.
I don't know if that would work for me, because when I walk in, I usually know what I want. And so I just really want to look around myself. As soon as they start hovering near me or they're asking me questions, it just really puts me off and I end up walking out.
Well, so here's another thing then, that retail salesperson who should be aware of that attitude coming from you, just say, would you like me to just let you, and actually ask the question, would you like me to leave you? And you say, yes, please.
Yes. Because I always say, yes, please.
If they say, would you like some help? That's a very closed question. Or if they say, how can I be of help today? Well, probably in your mind, the way you can help me is leave me alone.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can be honest.
Yeah. It really depends. If I'm going out for something that I know what I'm looking for, then I just want to you know, have a look myself. I don't want to, and you know, sometimes I can literally walk through, just walk a couple of steps in, and they're on me. How can I help you? What are you looking for? I'm like, I just need to look.
And sometimes I say that too. I said, look, thank you very much. Because, you know, some days you're looking, but you don't even feel like going into the change room and can't be bothered. You know, it's just, I know all those things. But you know, at that base level, some of my best outfits are those where the woman has dressed me.
Yeah, fantastic.
And has come up with a solution. See, I'm trying to relate it back to B2B, you know, the whole solution. And it's really uncovered that, you know, you've got an event coming up, or I often walk in and say, give me some nice tops because I'm on Zoom. Don't worry about the bottom half, but the tops are all important.
Yes.
And you have a laugh, you know.
Yeah, nice pajama bottoms, but and a nice top.
Something like that.
All right, great. And tell us about your book. Like, where can they purchase the book from, or where can they get more information?
Am I allowed to show it?
Yeah, of course.
You can see it there, my camera.
That's a lovely photo.
It is a lovely photo. Beautiful photographer Megan Gill took that photo. Yeah, my book is available. I have a website, kymcousins.com, Kim with a Y, kymcousins.com. You can purchase the book directly from that website, and I get that into the post for you. And there's a Christmas code you could use, Xmas21, for a $5 discount if you're thinking about a gift for somebody for Christmas. It is available on Amazon as well, and you can order that as an ebook if you like, put it on a Kindle book or the audio book. So in 2020, my book won the audiobook of the year with the Australian Business Book Awards, which I'm really excited about. So a lot of people have said to me that they've downloaded the audiobook, they go out walking or they're driving, and they sort of take snippets of what they learn throughout the book, and then they put that into play in their business. And they love, it's my voice narrating, so they hear me and they can see my picture, and some people who know me say, I can hear you in my head saying do this, do this, do this. And then they're like, it's like having me coaching in their ear while they're out walking. So if you're an audio book person, it's on Amazon. Otherwise, I'm happy to get that posted out before Christmas if anyone's interested, or after Christmas too, of course.
Yeah, is that code available after Christmas as well?
It's available to the end of January.
Yeah.
I can extend it. Perhaps I can offer another code, which we can put out on the show notes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. All right, well, at least they've got different ways to be able to contact you and also be able to buy your book, because I know that you can work with people privately as well if they've, you know, got particular things that they know that they need to work on.
I think sometimes that helps is that rather than embarking on a major sales training program, or perhaps they've done training in the past, and now they're in a particular different role, or they have their own business, sometimes it's just certain things that they need a bit of help with. It could be, I have an example in my book actually that a client I had a couple of years ago. She phoned me one day. She said, I want to sell to this big corporate client. She's not a corporation herself. She was more of a small business. She says, I don't even know how to get to phone them or to get a meeting with them. Can you help me with that? And can you help me then with the proposal? And so I did all that to help her, because it was just new and different for her, and it was very successful. So once she'd learnt that, she was off and running.
Yes.
So it was all good.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need a little lift up, and then.
And confidence.
Yeah.
And it's okay. A lot of women, particularly women, not always, but, I don't want to sell. Well, you're allowed to sell, because you do it every day. Because even with our families, sometimes I have to sell them on what are we having for dinner, or where are we going on a holiday, or whatever it is, why they should do the chores in the house, you know. So we sell and negotiate all day long. It's really just a natural part of what we do every day.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it's been so lovely to speak with you today, Kim, and I look forward to hearing how it goes with people purchasing your book and you helping them on their sales process.
Great. Thanks very much, Anne. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. See you soon.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.